on the Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy's Doom and Bloom show. We have a blog on www.doomandbloom.net. We also have a podcast on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It lasts for like 90 minutes. We have lots of guests. We talk about urban homesteading, prepping, and medical topics in case there's a post-collapse situation. But today I want to talk about growing potatoes. What you see in the background are actually my second planting of grow bag potatoes. So I harvested those about a month ago, and now I've got the second one growing. The first thing you need to do when you're growing potatoes is obtain the potatoes. Usually people just go to the grocery store and they buy big old potatoes. The problem with buying them from the grocery store is that what you get is a potato that's usually sprayed with a fungicide and an anti-sprouting spray. That's bad if you want to plant your potatoes, because if you don't have the sprouts, you aren't going to get the plant or the potatoes. So, the best source for potatoes are called seed potatoes. Seed potatoes just mean that they haven't been sprayed and that the grower that you're obtaining them from actually certifies that they have not sprayed them. So they're certified seed potatoes. What you do when you get those is you lay them out on a tray. I keep them in my air-conditioned home so they don't get too hot. And you take a mist of water and you spray them every day. After 2 or 3 weeks, maybe sooner if they've been waiting in the grower's storage unit for a while, they might sprout a little bit sooner. Sometimes it could take 4 weeks. If you have large potatoes, when you begin to get the eyes coming up, what you'd like to do is cut them into 2 or 3 pieces. What you'd like to ideally have is 2 or 3 eyes coming up in each piece. That's important. That's going to get you a nice plant. So if I had one like this, I would probably cut this in 2 or 3 pieces. Once you've done that, and these have began to grow, if you are going to cut them, you need to let them scab over. When you freshly cut a potato, you'll see it begins to turn brown. Just leave those on your tray, continue your spraying, and after 2 days, you'll have a scab. Once you have the scab, when it's placed in the dirt, it will have less rot. That's important. You don't want your potatoes rotting once you put them in the ground. Now, the soil that you use is very important. I use grow bags because it allows the water to drain out. Drainage with potatoes is very important. If you have too much water, you're going to get a fungus rot. This happened to me when I tried to plant them last summer. It rained and rained and rained, and the containers that I was growing them in did not breathe and allow water drainage, so they just rotted and it was no good. So I now have these fabric pots. Your soil needs to be able to hold water but drain. That's a little difficult for most potting soil, so I make my own custom potting soil. I use what's called coconut coir. Coconut coir comes in blocks, and it looks like this. It's very compressed. You see that? What I did, this is actually 1 block of coconut coir placed into this container. You just take your hose and you begin spraying with it. What you're doing as you're spraying is you're pulling it apart. This bucket right here is actually filled with 1 block of coconut coir. Believe it or not, it really, really expands. But this is great for growing your potatoes because you're going to get water retention, but it's also going to allow the water to drain out. The second thing I do when making my potting soil for the potatoes is I get a garden soil. Most people will use potting soils when they use regular containers because, again, they need really good drainage. Since these already breathe and allow some water drainage, I can use a little bit richer soil. This adds some nutrients and has some compost and also some kelp meal in it, which are great for growing potatoes. So what I would do is add this entire bag to the 1 block. Now, potatoes really like a little bit of acidic soil. Actually, they like about 5.5, which is pretty acidic. In your garden center, you can get hydrangea soil acidifier. This is organic. I pour about 1/3 of this bag in here and mix it up. It also provides some sulfur and also some calcium. So I would mix that up really well. The fourth thing that I put in here is pine straw. 1 bucket of pine straw. Again, pine straw adds some acid, but it also allows some good water drainage. You can see, if you added water to this, the pine straw almost creates little pockets so that water will fall out. And as it breaks down, it adds some nutrients to your soil. This soil right here, I'll bring it over here, is actually the second growing soil. This is what I used for the very first planting. And I used it to start my potatoes, and you can see as it's breaking down, it's really getting nice and rich and has some good nutrients. You can see what's happened to the pine straw as it's breaking down. So that's what I've started. Now this is going to be to fill those up. So once I get this all mixed up, I'll have a nice acidic, water retaining, but water draining soil. Very important for your potatoes. The next step is putting about 6 inches of this mix into your